Hi, I'm Megan, and I'm so excited for you to hear my new podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder from Lemonada Media.
Okay, so I bet you can imagine how excited I was this morning when I got a notification from Spotify, because I've had the bell notifications on Spotify for Meghan Markle's podcast since she quit doing them back at the end of 2022, 2.5 years ago. I've been waiting 2.5 years for more Meghan Markle podcast content. Now, I guess a lot of you are thinking, where has she been for the last 2.5 years? Has she been away honing her skills, learning how to become a top podcaster? That's what I would have done with all the money she's got. If Spotify gave me $30 million, I would give $10 million to Lex Fridman to take me out into the Californian wilderness for a couple of months. And because he's really a pioneer of podcasting with no discernible personality, right? I would pay him to take me out for a couple of months into the wilderness in California, and he would talk to me incessantly about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and all the different kinds of bears and how scary they are and big and everything. He would teach me how to blow an elk's brains out. And then if I don't have any personality, at least I've got all the talking points for a podcasting career. So it would appear that Meghan has done none of that. No skills have been honed.
Who's Daniel Boland? Oh, Daniel Boland, this is a heavy hitter. Do you guys know who this is?
I'm sitting down with female entrepreneurs and friends to uncover what often goes unseen when building something great: the setbacks, the sleepless nights, and the laser focus that got them to where they are today.
So as you can see there, Meghan Markle's podcast has been rebranded from Archetypes to Confessions of a Female Founder, all right?
We're diving into the type of insights everyone wants to know as they're building a business.
But the format hasn't changed at all. It's still exactly the same. So for those of you who don't know how the first season worked, it was very similarly to this season that she would invite some slay girl boss guest on who don't need no man.
And I'm able to tap into all of this wisdom from them as I'm building my own business as ever.
And, I say invite on. What she would do is she would hold 12 or so minute Zoom call conversation with her guest and stretch that out into a 45-minute podcast.
So we're going to play you a little sneak peek of the first episode featuring my friend, Whitney Wolfe Herd, founder of Bumble.
Right? But it was very heavily scripted. And I think really she's been compiling these next 12, I guess, episodes over the last 2.5 years because it really doesn't matter when she records them. The questions and answers are so bland and so vague that it could have been recorded in the 80s.
I can't wait for you to listen.
This stuff. I mean, it really... What she will do is she'll hold the conversation, she'll ask a boring question about how do you get the inspiration to write a book or whatever this girl boss did. And the girl boss will go, well, I always believe that the glass is half full. And then some soothing music will come over the top, like, and Meghan will start narrating like David Attenborough, as though something fascinating and bizarre and otherworldly has just been said or happened on screen, as though she's commenting on the mating rituals of some bird of paradise, and she'll. It's actually incredible to think that she sees the glass as half full, and that will be how the podcast will work for 45 minutes. Weirdly boring question, weirdly boring answer, 5 minutes of narration and reflections from Meghan. That was the winning formula. Why would you change a winning formula? And she hasn't.
I'm sure the first time I ever heard about you was in Time magazine, being the youngest self-made billionaire, female billionaire. Huge. What on earth did that feel like?
Well, you know what's funny? It's like at my on paper richest, I was my inward poorest.
What does that mean to you?
Great follow-up question, Meghan. What does that mean to you? In fact, I would just say, what does that mean? That she was ostensibly one of the richest humans that has ever lived, but inwardly, one of the poorest.
That means that what it took out of me to hit those milestones actually robbed me of my real wealth.
Wow, that is profound. That is exactly the kind of insight that I'm going to be tuning into Confessions of a... what's it called? Confessions of a Girl Boss. From now on, I want to hear that kind of thing. Okay?
The ability to connect with myself, to take time for myself, to focus on my physical, mental, spiritual health.
I want to know why the founder of the Bumble dating app for women here, who Meghan's talking to, Whitney Wolfe Herd, felt so inwardly poor when at 31 she became the youngest female billionaire of all time.
To focus on my relationships, to focus on the things that actually make you the wealthiest in life.
A woman who has ostensibly been a multimillionaire since her early 20s. She's the same age as me. Yeah. She's bloody 35 years old. Has been a billionaire baller CEO since her mid-20s. And suddenly, the insight she's given us there, that's kind of stressful. That at 31 she turned around like Alexander the Great and wept, for there were no more worlds left to conquer.
So while my financial wealth on paper was this like crazy headline and like world record thing, whatever, it didn't even matter because all these other buckets were so low.
You know, I know how she feels. You do have to look after your mental health, even if you're absolutely balling. I mean, I made, I don't like to brag, 500 euros on the lottery last year. And I had to check myself, you know. I had to look after my mental health. Didn't want that to go to my head. And I get all of my health advice from the podcasting community. Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan. So I didn't have enough money for some ayahuasca. I just bought some pot off some kids. And I smoked all of that. I got in a river. It was pretty cold. It's not an ice bath, but it'll do. You know, I swam in the river for a bit. And then the sensory deprivation tank. Now, there aren't any where I live. But I did find a very, very dark cupboard in the janitor's cupboard down in the garage under my building. And I locked myself in there. The panic attack was massive. They had to smoke me out of there like a honeybee. I can't feel anything. That's what I was doing.
And so what has been beautiful, and I wrote a letter to myself over the summer, actually.
That is so gay.
Our stock hit an all-time low. And I wrote a letter to myself that day, and I said, today is one of the best days of my life. I said, because my other buckets of wealth are so overflowing that it just
want to cry.
Doesn't matter.
Makes you want to cry. Well, it makes me want to cry, but I'm not sure that we see this the same way. I think Meghan, it's making her cry as though this is about Schmidt or something, and the guy turns around at the end of the film, spoiler alert, and realizes, oh, I have made a difference after all, and breaks down in tears. Now, that is not the case when a 31-year-old self-made billionaire suddenly turns around and goes, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to spend the next 50 years or so on this planet working on myself and on my interpersonal relationships. I think it's time to check in on me for once. That is peak human experience. It really makes me want to cry. I want that.
It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter what a stock price is today. It's not how I measure my worth.
Well, to be fair, we kind of share a philosophy there. I mean, that's pretty much what I said word for word when I quit my day job last year to pursue online microfame, which is going very well. I walked into my boss's office and I said, Frank, I quit, okay? I don't derive my sense of self-worth from the stock market and the prices of the stocks, all right? To which he said, Danny, what are you talking about? You've got a young family. Think this through. What are you talking about? The stock market. You're a salaried employee. And I said, blah, 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 blah. Stocks. That's all you think about, yeah? Go and tell it to your Wall Street buddies on Wall Street. Which he said to me, what do you mean, Wall Street? We are living in northern Spain. This is an English academy. You're a TEFL teacher. And I said, yeah. Tell it to your Manhattan yuppie friends, Frank. Everyone's always trying to reason with me. Well, not this time.
But what made you in that want to write a letter to yourself? How would that become a part of a practice for you?
I just thought, you know what, I better clock in and I better check in because I want to remember this day. I want to remember this day. I want to remember that I got to a place of self-growth where on a day that should feel like the worst day in terms of riding the waves of success, right? Things always go up and down. Mm-hmm. And I just remember I wrote myself a letter and I just said, this is like the best day ever. I have healthy children. I love my husband. It's beautiful where I am. I hiked. I meditated. Like I just reflected in this moment of gratitude of all the things I do have. And I think it's a really good reminder to people that you have to take stock of how you measure your happiness, your wealth, and how you define it.
Take stock in your actual stock.
No.
That's right.
I think it's amazing how evolved you are.
It's amazing how evolved you are. That's a new one.
It takes a lot of years for most people to be able to have that level of wisdom and an internal compass. It really does. And I mean, especially when you've spent a career doing the work, the business work, how would you approach that? Or what advice, I guess, would you give to people who are listening that say, okay, well, you're saying you felt so depleted and the buckets were so low or so empty in all these other categories, but it's because of that you were able to still get to this number and get those metrics. And isn't that the goal? And then you could fill up your cups again?
We're filling cups now.
Would you do it differently?
Totally. And I think, the one thing I can offer to the world is actually a blueprint of, hey, don't take this route to the top of Everest. It's not worth it. Like the view is not worth it. Mm-hmm.
Do you know, you would have thought that by 2025, in the podcasting world, they would have realized that constantly speaking in analogies and metaphors is confusing. Because I'm not sure, are we filling cups or depleting buckets? Do most people climb Everest just to get a good view of the other Himalayas? I don't understand.
Don't do it because the one thing you can never get back is time.
Yeah.
Is your precious time. And the amount of time, Meg, that I wasted on being stressed, being miserable, being overwhelmed, being paranoid about what shoe was going to drop. You know what? I actually think I would have been more successful had I not been like that.
So I guess the moral of today's podcast is give up. If it gets a bit stressful, you'd probably be a bigger billionaire if you just chill out a bit, Well, in the spirit of this podcast, of this insightful conversation, I think I'm going to give up. I can't be arsed anymore with that nonsense. I don't know if I'll continue with this. I don't know if I can be bothered, but it's nice to reminisce, isn't it? To go back and I don't know, I probably will give it a listen. We'll see. God knows what will happen. Alright, if you've enjoyed the video, give the video a like. Let the universe, let the algorithm, more importantly, know what a lovely time you've had. Let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you want to help out with the channel even further and get some access to some exclusive videos, you can join my Patreon. All the links to my social media are down there under this video, so you can Follow me on there and find out when I release a new video. Nothing else. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
How many of us feel battered